We're here today joined with the Mayor himself, Mr. Hayek. Bilal, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. A long-time friend. We've actually worked together in the community, been together at many events, and it's an absolute pleasure that you've joined us in such a busy time in your life.
What's that? It's quite a busy time, quite a busy couple of weeks, alhamdulillah. But can't miss the opportunity to be here with you, and and inshallah we'll share the message with the community.
Inshallah, and that's what actually united us. There's two things that united us, and one of them is community. Can you divulge further into your community work? What inspired you to get into your field, and what do you do actually for those who don't know?
Yeah, so obviously I am the mayor of the city of Canterbury, Bansktown, one of the largest councils in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah, just got elected about 18 months ago or so. It's a blessing, it's a privilege, it's an honour to be able to serve so many people. What inspired me to do what I do and get into politics? The question is, I don't know. The answer is, I really don't know. And just one thing led to the other, and I found myself in 2017, tapped on the shoulder and say, would you want to get into politics and get on council, in which I've gladly accepted. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I've always ever done community work all my life. So it's before politics. I used to work for a number of organisations doing youth work. And up until I became mayor, I was the youth worker at the PCYC, Police Citizens Youth Club, for about 10 years. Just doing youth work, family support. It was just a privilege and an honour. One thing led to the other, and 18 months ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me, and I became the mayor of one of the largest cities in the state and the country. So,
and just in saying that, becoming a mayor, obviously there's a journey. Correct. Before just becoming a mayor. You don't just wake up overnight and become a mayor.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of sacrifices you've made, hard work.
Yep, it's a long journey. So I got elected in 2017 as a councillor, and as you know, Canterbury. I'm on Canterbury Bansktown Council. Before that, in 2017, I'll say there was a good 5 years of hard work to get to that stage, to get on council. And I mean, Saturdays, Sundays, nights, days, a lot of family events missed. So there's a lot of things that people don't see. People just see the glory,
the success, which is this much.
Correct.
They don't see the hard work.
They don't see the hard work,
sacrifice.
Correct, absolutely. But the reality is, no matter what you do, no matter how successful you are, no matter how high you climb, you don't just fluke it. No. There might be some, luck goes your way, but the reality is there's a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes that people don't see. So just 18 months ago, I was, lucky enough to be able to, with the support of my colleagues, to be elected mayor of Canterbury Bansktown. It's a big job. It's a huge responsibility. It's something, to be honest, even if you ask me today, if you asked me 5 or 10 years ago maybe, do you see yourself as the mayor of the city of Canterbury? What are you talking about? Because I never thought I'd be in politics.
Even when you were a councillor and then Labor, the party had won, I remember about 5 years ago, you were always there to help and answer the call. And if you don't mind me recounting on a memory, I used to be involved in a community club which I grew up in, and there was a lot of pressure when I joined there as a secretary in Bansktown. It's a community club. And when we made that phone call that we need help, there's pressure put on us. Yes, our members have dropped, but we had our clubhouse burnt.
Yep.
You and your team at the time just came there, supported us, and actually lifted us as the local council, knowing that the club's been in the area for over 20 years.
Yep. Oh, it's our duty. I mean, if I can support, and I tell people all the time, one of the things I do is I try to be as trustworthy, as honest as possible with the people. Because when you lie to people, when you don't tell the truth, at a time in your life, this will catch up. So if it's a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, you can get away with it. But after that, you can't. So I remember that conversation, actually. But what I want to say a story. I was driving up here on the way up. I I actually had a tear in my eye, to be honest. This guy lives in Greenacre, calls me, old man. I don't know him. I don't remember him. I don't remember his name. I don't remember anything, right? And he goes, Bilal, I live on a main road. I go, yeah. And he goes to me, man, I really want to help you at the elections. And I go, why? It was just this random older bloke. And he goes, man, I want to make sure I put up as many posters for you as possible. And he said these words, he goes, Bidi sha'allak yaha, in Arabic.
Yeah.
And
He wants a lot of fire on them.
Yeah. And he goes, I'll get a lot of calls that people say, I want to support you, whatever. And then he goes to me, you probably don't remember me, but during COVID, he goes, what you've done for me and my family, he goes, we'll never forget it.
Wow.
I don't remember that person. Actually put a tear in my eye because we hear a lot of negatives in our jobs. We never hear the positives. Every now and then we hear a positive. But when someone's not complaining, when someone's not nagging, that means you've done the right thing by them. But when someone complains, that means they need help. So, there's so many stories like this that I don't remember, I don't recall, I got no memory of, right? But when someone comes up to you, man, you helped me do 1, 2, 3. Even yesterday in Greenacre, I was putting up core flutes. I was, and
I'm sure you're putting a lot of them.
A lot of them in Canterbury, Bansktown. I was putting up one. It was late at night. He goes, "Do you remember me?" I go, "Well, I don't. Just remind me of the name."
That's saying the truth too. You're not lying.
He goes, there was an issue in my house, and you helped me out. Blah blah blah. It's just those small things that inspire you.
That's right.
And you just take it one day, one step at a time, and if Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants you to be there, you'll be there.
That's right. Whatever's will to be shall be.
Mate,
That's right.
If Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants you to be there, you'll be there, and if not, mate, we're believers, and we get on with the job.
That's right. And in saying that, when I called you, you were actually quite busy. I'm not sure how you answered that phone call, but why are you busy? What's coming up?
Oh, look, I'm not here because of the council.
We know that. You were scheduled to come on before we even started.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm not here because of the council elections, but we do have a council elections coming up in about 3 weeks, inshallah. And, it's quite a busy period in terms of putting up core flutes, talking to people, community engagement.
Is that the busiest period in your career as a politician?
Look, I won't say it's the busiest, but it's a very important period. You want to make sure you get everything right. You want to make sure your team is ready. Because you got to man 25 to 30 booths. There's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of letter drops, and there's a whole heap of things that people don't see.
How many people live in your LGA? Because we're in Australia, and then you have Sydney, as you know, New South Wales, Sydney, then Canterbury, Bankstown.
Correct.
And you said it's the largest LGA, one of the largest. How many members roughly live there?
We have about 380,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, roughly in the LGA. It's huge. Yeah. It's massive, and sometimes there's different ends to the electorate, to the LGA, and there's different demands for the community. Different communities. The Islamic community in Canterbury is about 25 to 30%.
And that's risen over the last few years, right?
Yeah. It's a big community.
So you'd say there's about 30% Islamic population in
Canterbury,
Bankstown.
Yeah, and they're very they're in certain areas.
Yeah,
not across the LGA.
That's right.
But it is a huge community, the Muslim community in Canterbury, Bansktown. And over the years, we've had a lot of successful people come out of Canterbury, Bansktown.
That's right.
Muslim or non-Muslim.
That's right.
The likes of Steve Folkes went to Punchbowl Boys, who was a former premiership winning coach with the Bulldogs.
And you say that with a passion. I know you're a vivid ad-lib Bulldog supporter.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling now? They're in the top 4.
Feeling fantastic. Top 5.
Top 5, yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to the top 4 by the end of this. Yeah. About, I think, 3 or 4 weeks to go.
Well, they have a new GM. He's been there for a little while. And he's known to tap into the mayors and the local politicians. Yeah. Have you had any discussions with Phil Gould about his plans?
I see Phil every now and then. Phil Gould. I actually got a lunch with him coming up.
Of course you did.
Pretty shortly. I think next week or so. But, I always say if the Bulldogs are going well,
That's right.
Canterbury Bankstown's going well.
That's a good line.
There's a lot of passion in the community, in terms of the Bulldogs.
Yes.
And mate, we have the most passionate,
That's right.
die-hard supporters. I don't know who you go for. But
I don't go for the Bulldogs. And it's a funny story because my uncle played for the Dragons at the time of Mundine, but he didn't make it to first grade.
Okay.
Injury cut short. He was on the train-on squad.
Sure.
So when I came back, we went to Lebanon for a couple of years, similar to the time that you arrived here. And they were the grand finalists, Ainsco.
Sure.
So we became a Dragon supporter by default.
Oh, yeah.
But seeing what's happening with your club, I would say, is inspiring because they were cellar dwellers, meaning last.
Rubber, yeah, absolutely. They were coming last year, and to turn it around, and now to be, I think only I read a report 2-3 days ago, they're the best defensive team in the comp to overtake Penrith, who've been the benchmark.
That's right.
Team of the competition is, mate, it's massive.
When we go to the Bulldogs, we talk about Belmore, which is a home stadium. And when we talk about feel good, we talk about infrastructure. Is there any surprises you can share with us? Or
look, there's no secret. Phil Gould is one of the most powerful people in rugby league. Very strong personality and a very smart operator. And he understands the game in and out. There's no doubt about it. The Bulldogs have sort of rebuilt over the last 3-4 years. They've gone through their issues, but are they? I think they're overperforming at this period of time as well. To be honest, they don't. What the team they have is just working so well together. Is anyone expecting to be in fifth position at the moment? There's no chance. Yeah. But bigger and better things to come. I reckon next year or two, they're a couple of players short of being a real premiership contenders.
Being that Penrith Panther benchmark.
That's right. And I think it's coming. I think that the salary cap, they've got a bit of money to spend. And, it's exciting to be a Bulldogs fan. We haven't had the success for a long time. They say, I'm going to be one of these conspiracy theorists. 1974, grand final, 84, 94, 2004 won the premiership, and 2024.
Well, one would say it's coming home.
That's right. So 2024. So this year could be the year.
Well, look, I think I'm hoping, even though I'm not a Bulldog supporter, but I'm hoping for 2 victories in 2024. The upcoming victory in yourself and the premiership for the Bulldogs. Yeah. But let's bring it back a notch. My family decided to relocate, and I was at the age of, I was young, to Lebanon for 2 years, just to instill that culture back into us. And then when we returned, I think it coincides to...
What year was that?
1999, we returned to...
I arrived in Australia in 1999.
I feel like you and I have these hidden connections.
September 1999.
September, yeah, that was around the time that we relocated to Australia. Wow. How does a quote-unquote migrant from Lebanon land in 1999? I'm assuming your English wasn't like now.
I could not speak a word of English.
Not a word?
Not a word of English.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. It was an interesting journey. So I was born in Lebanon, came here when I was 1999, 11 or 12 years old, and couldn't speak a word of English. I had to go to English school. Wow. For 6 months. I had to go to Beverly Hills English Intensive.
I remember that school, yeah.
And then from there, I went to Punchbowl Boys High School for 1 day.
Would that be the following year?
Yeah, probably.
We had Ned, Chirokinetics, local business owner, and he said that in the year 2000, it was the most difficult time to be a student in Punchbowl Boys.
Oh, there you go. So maybe that's why my dad pulled me out.
Yeah.
So I went to Punchbowl Boys for 1 day. And from there, I went to Belmore Boys High School for 1 year. I was year 9. And then from there, I did year 10. Sorry, that was year 8. I did year 9, 10, 11, 12 at Nur Al Huda.
Wow.
That used to be in Condell Park and then relocated to Strathfield.
Okay.
It's just you know, it's funny because it's funny and inspiring I try to inspire young people, right? You know, I keep saying if a kid like me who couldn't speak a word of English can come to Australia, work hard and be the mayor of one of the largest cities in Australia, the opportunities for all these young people, for all these young boys and girls that were born in Australia, they had a stable early life, you know, and they speak good English, is the opportunity for them is, you know, is limitless.
It goes back to your hard work and
absolutely
setting goals and making sure the right systems in place.
And Australia as a country is a country of opportunities.
That's right.
It's a matter for you if you want to grab these opportunities or not. But in Australia, you know, we see you here. You know, there's a studio. You've started something, right?
That's right.
It's an opportunity.
That's right.
And you just try to build it and work on it and build it and work on it. And Australia is the same. If you come here knowing that you want to succeed in a certain field, you will succeed. But you can't sit at home and say, I want to become this, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to become a plumber or engineer, or, you know, any trade, or open any successful business, or do any project. It's not going to happen. It's not going to come to you if you don't work hard.
That's right.
And the opportunities in Australia are there for you to succeed. So people need to make sure they grab it. People need to make sure they, you know, just grab these opportunities, because we are pretty blessed. You know, we are very blessed to live in the best country in the world.
Well, you look at Australia, and as you said, it's a land of opportunities, and it's there for the taking. You just need to strive, work hard, and push towards whatever you put your mind to. And I feel like the sentiment at the moment is that people would like instant gratification, where they struggle with delayed gratification. They struggle working hard. They want the opportunity to happen now. They forget about the journey.
Absolutely. I still do youth work till now. I had a program I was doing on Monday with 20 young boys, and I told them, I go, boys, don't look at the money.
That's right.
I go, the money will come. You know, work hard. You know, when I did my very first job, you know, I was on $32,000, right? I couldn't even pay rent properly. But you work hard, you know, you keep working and you keep climbing that ladder, and eventually you'll get there. Eventually you will be making a lot of money, you'll be successful. But success isn't measured by money either, though.
That's a great point.
Yeah, you know, to be successful doesn't mean you need to be a millionaire or a billionaire. You know, for you to have that dignity, that respect, that understanding, that you walk the street with your head high, for me, that's success.
And you know, people struggle with the term or with the idea of when they're starting something new, it has to be perfect. And like you and I have been involved together in different areas and avenues through community work and whatnot, but we both share something similar, that when you start a project or start something, even if it's not perfect, is that an excuse to delay it?
No, but there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such
That's
thing.
That's called a mic drop.
Absolutely. There's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect company, perfect organization, perfect business, perfect family. I'm not a perfect man. Right. Honestly, no one's perfect. There's no such thing as I want this ideal thing that is in my head. It doesn't happen. You know, and I was actually, as a matter of fact, I was talking to these young people early on Monday, and I go to them, look, if you think your life is perfect at home, you're wrong. Who doesn't have issues? Who doesn't have problems? Who doesn't have, you know, maybe mum and dad are separated. Maybe, you know, mum has a sickness. Maybe dad's passed away. Maybe mum's passed away. You know, maybe they're not together. Maybe you know, there's other issues. But no one's life is perfect.
That's right.
No opportunity, no business opportunity is perfect. You know, you create it, you create the opportunity, you create the business, you create the family, and you make sure you try your best.
That's right. Well, speaking of hardship, I feel like one thing that we share together is probably one of the most hardest moments in our life. And it's a matter of a fact. It's life. It is what it is. There's a clock. We all have a clock. The clock is ticking. I may leave the studio and you may not see me again.
Absolutely.
What is the most difficult moment that's happened in your life? And did you want to go there?
Look, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. The most difficult thing that's ever happened to me was losing my father.
Yeah.
There is no shadow of a doubt. My father, Allah yarhamu, was the number one supporter. My father was my best friend. My father was my guide. My father was, he was everything. Bro, and I mean it. He was everything. You got family and you got friends, and then you have your father. I'm not saying your mother's not.
Of course, she's a nurturer.
Correct. But your father, like, especially in our culture, in our communities, my father was everything. And I lost my father just over 3 years ago now, and it was the most difficult thing that has ever happened to me. You actually never recover when you lose your father.
You know, they talk about the stages of grief, and you hit the nail on its head. I believe there's no stages of grief. You learn to live with it because you never get over the loss of your father.
Absolutely.
Your father's your best friend.
Absolutely. Best friend, my mentor, my guide, my everything in life. You know, and when my father passed away, Allah yarhamu, there was actually, you know, I was with him the night before. There was nothing wrong with him. It was during COVID. And, you know, my mum wakes me up at night and yeah, you know, my father passed away in front of my eyes. I live with my parents. I live with my dad. Looking at it now in hindsight, it is the best decision I've ever made.
Wow.
It is the best decision I've ever made, that I live with my parents. And it was during that COVID time when Ramadan, it was just straight after Ramadan, and, you know, when there was no invitations to go anywhere. So I spent all Ramadan with my dad and my mum.
Because in COVID you had no less commitments. Correct. Compared to...
I had no invitations, couldn't go out. Looking at it now, you go, oh man, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling me to say goodbye.
It was your opportunity.
It was the opportunity, and I spent so much time with him. And, you know, right now, I just say, I wish my father can come back for 5 minutes, just for 5 minutes. Because once you lose your old man, life will never be the same. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what it is. Once you lose your father, you've lost half your life. You know, so if your parents are around, if your mum and dad are around, to the listeners, I beg you, you know, treat them well, treat them with respect, show them the love they deserve, because, wallah, there's going to be a time where you can't do that. I wish I get that one phone call once only, only once. You know, when I've recorded my father under dad, just for my dad to call me. It says, Dad. It's a simple thing, right? It's a simple thing. But as you said, that's the circle of life.
That's right.
You know, one goes, one comes. But you know, every salah, every prayer, whether it's dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha, or fajr, every salah, I have to make dua for my father.
You know, I lost my father in 2016. Allah yajma'una bihim fil jannah. And I made it a mission upon myself after every prayer to recite the Fatiha and dedicate part of the reward to my father, because we know that we can benefit our Muslim brothers and sisters and family members who we've lost while we're alive. We can make dua for them. We can read Quran for them and ask Allah to lighten their grave. And it'll be like a gift that comes into the grave, and that's at the mercy of Allah. You know, on that note of your father, I feel like what you said was so raw, and it's exactly how I feel till this very day. No one can fill that void.
No, never.
So what do you do? I know what I've done, but what have you done after losing your father suddenly, after all these years? How have you...
You never adapt. You actually never adapt. You know, I still live with my mum, which I love, and I obviously have that much respect for. But you never get over losing your father. You never. Like, obviously your mother as well. But you never get and I'll be very honest. I still remember, I was actually watching a video 2-3 days ago when I first got elected on council in 2017. For my father, my brother and my sisters, alhamdulillah, they're all very well educated. My brother's a PhD in aeronautical engineering.
MashaAllah.
And he was always proud to see my siblings succeed and do well. But when I got elected on council, I have never ever seen my father smile, and the way he did that night. And I got it on video. Even my brother would tell me, he will go, "I've never seen your dad as happy."
Wow.
And I am so honoured proud to be able to make him happy. And when I became mayor only 18 months ago, it was difficult.
I watched your speech.
It was very...
When you acknowledged him.
When I acknowledged my father, it was pretty difficult. It was really, really difficult because you never ever forget it. You never ever forget your father and your mother. So, alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us with our family in Jannah bi'Iznillah ta'ala.
Is there any advice that he gave you that still resonates with you till this very day?
Look, it wasn't really the advice. It was just the action.
The way he led.
He led, he was honest, trustworthy, didn't say 2 words. This is how things work. Even now when I deal with my kids, if my son, the same way, exactly the same way. I'm telling you, my son, okay, if you do this, this is going to happen. If you do this, this is going to happen. I advise you to do this. What you do is up to you, right? But, you try to give as much advice as you can. But he was the action man. So he was a big family man. I'm the same. I love my family.
That's right.
And we're all the same. A lot of our community is the same. We're family people. And basically, we do everything for our family.
That's right.
We do everything for our family and for them to succeed. We work hard for them. And that's one thing always in the back of my head, especially because every decision I make, it's not only for my community, which it is.
Of course.
But in the back of my head is always my family.
Wow.
And my kids. Wow. Because one day, and I'll say this, we were the first council to obviously raise the Palestinian flag. In October last year. And when my kids went to school, some teachers stopped them and they go, "You can do whatever you want because your father did 1, 2, 3, 4. And he made us proud."
Wow.
Agree or disagree with the actual, how the teacher
sent the message.
She
must have a good rapport with your kids for her to...
Yeah, agree or disagree. My point is, my kids will always be treated because of their father's decision. So that's always in the back of my head. If I do something wrong, everyone's going to remind my kids that I did something wrong.
Wow.
So it's important that I always try to make the best possible decision for the community, first and foremost, and of course for my family as well.
Yeah, your actions and decisions will have a direct impact on your kids.
Absolutely.
Especially in the position that you're in. But on the note of being the LGA or the council that raised the Palestinian flag, you put a strong stance, and strong is an understatement. It was so imperative that in our local community that someone stood up and spoke about the issues that are happening in the Middle East and the suffering that's happening. So one may say, "Oh, he's just raised a flag," but no, it's bigger than that.
It was a massive decision. It was a huge decision, but it is a decision that we proudly took as a council, and it was a unanimous decision. It was a time where only one side was allowed to grieve, and the other side wasn't allowed to grieve. And and it was important that we allow people to grieve, and people wanted to feel that they're grieving as well. They're allowed to grieve.
How many families in the LGA, or not a number specifically, but I'm assuming there's many families that you're aware of that have been impacted by the loss of lives directly?
I have a family that lost something like 52 members in Gaza. It's pretty devastating. It hits home, especially that our community receives raw videos and photos, unlike what gets shown in the media, which is also heartbreaking. What gets shown in the media is heartbreaking, but we get it live as it's happening on our videos, and it's raw. That vision is raw. So emotions through the roof. There's something like 16,000 kids that have over 16,000 kids that have been killed in Gaza. It's devastating. It's difficult. It's tough. 40,000 people dead. It's
with the current,
roughly. Some people argue it's hundreds of thousands. Whether it's 40, whether it's 1,000, 40,000, or 100,000, the killing of any innocent people is never acceptable. So it was a difficult time. It still is a very difficult time for our community. But inshallah, we hope and pray things get better from here on.
Inshallah, surely I ask Allah to ease the hardship on the suffering that's occurring in the Middle East, in Palestine specifically. And we have, Palestine is the holy city, but we also have the Sudan, we have Burma, we have the Uruguays. There's a lot of injustice happening around the world.
I say this, any killing of any innocent people anywhere in the world is not acceptable. Any part of the world. And any injustice that's happening to any person in any country in the world. We live, during this century where in Australia we have everything we want.
That's right.
We're very blessed. So the least we can do is give these people or support these people to have the very bare minimum.
That's right.
Of life.
Is there a lot of displaced people from Gaza in the local LGA? Have they landed anywhere in your LGA? Have you?
Look, there's the numbers are there's 1,300 people that have arrived in Australia, not in LGA.
Okay, in Australia.
In Australia, the community always, like we did during COVID, like we did during the bushfires, like we did during the drought, like we did during COVID recently. Our community is a very generous community.
They are, yeah.
And they get behind each other. They do. Not only each other, but they get behind the country.
That's right.
And so they are really rallying, trying to support any person that's arrived from Gaza, as much as possible. But as I said, our community is a wonderful community. I don't care what anyone says. We might not be the richest community in the world, but let me assure you, we are the most generous community.
Well, the Bansktown that I grew up in, we moved many areas in our life since we relocated back to Australia. But the Bansktown I grew up with is not the Bansktown that you're in charge of now. The infrastructure has changed. Yeah. I've just seen amazing buildings going up, universities being put in the hub of Bansktown. Pork Eating Park was always beautiful, but it was Pork Eating Park with the grass. Now recently I'm watching the news and I missed that opening. I was supposed to be there to support the community and yourself and then Greenacre, Greenacre, the negative connotation that it's had on it.
There's only bigger and better things from here, inshallah. So we have, obviously, as you mentioned, a brand new state-of-the-art Western Sydney University that opened last year. And we're working very closely with the state government to have a brand new state-of-the-art $1.3 billion hospital.
Oh, wow.
Right in the heart of Bansktown. Obviously, the metro's coming in. A lot of parks have been upgraded, whether it's Paul Keating or Greenacre Splash Park or Bass Hill or other wards or in Canterbury or wherever it might be. But Bansktown is about to change even much better now and you'll start to really realise what's going on in the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a housing crisis in the state, so we're doing our bit for the housing crisis, because I want to make sure my kids and your kids and everyone's kids have somewhere to stay, whether they want to rent or whether they want to buy. So we're doing our bit. We're working with the government on that. But in the next 5 years, Bansktown will be a CBD, a city.
Is that a shared vision in your community?
Absolutely. And I'm proud of it. I am. You get your people that are always negative, that don't want to change.
That's right. Reluctant to change.
Yeah, which I can understand their pain and frustration, but we can't continue to live in the past.
That's right.
I have kids, everyone has kids, they need somewhere to live, so we need to develop our area with time. Unfortunately, years passed and nothing happened, so we'll make sure this isn't allowed to happen. We will be doing everything we can to support our community and our families with the growth of the new Canterbury Bansktown, whether it's in Campsie or Bansktown, but it's just going to even look much better in the next 5 years.
Can I expect different types of buildings going up? And
absolutely.
And I say Bansktown because I originally was from Bansktown and Condor Park. The government mentioned Bansktown as well.
Yeah,
as
right. So Todd, so the government has taken over the planning for Bansktown, and they are putting their master plan forward to the community. So by the end of this year, if you have a block of land in Bansktown, you want to develop it, and it fits within these parameters, and we'll be seeing, buildings go up. We need to support our kids.
That's right.
We need something for our kids to live. There's not enough housing. That's the end of it.
And Bankston used to be full of housing, but now we reached modern day.
It's not only Bankston; it's the whole state.
The whole state, yeah.
The whole state.
There's a housing crisis in New South Wales, right?
Yeah. But if we don't do our bit, we're going to stay where we are. If we keep saying no, we're going to stay where we are. But we're not going to do that. We're going to get on with the job and deliver for our community.
And like you always do, rightly so. Before we wrap the pod up, and I know you're very busy and you probably have 5 other appointments after this shoot, I want a prediction from you. Who's in the NRL Grand Final and what is the scoreline?
Oh, look, I'm going to give you a bias.
Of course.
And a non-biased one.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you with the heart and with the brains.
Okay.
So with the heart, the biased one, I'm going to go Bulldogs Roosters Grand Final. And just feeding into this conspiracy theory that, 74, 84, 94, 04, 2024. 2014 we made the grand final as well. And 2024 now. And I'm going to go just a replay of the 2004 grand final between the Bulldogs and the Roosters. That's what I would like to see. And the Bulldogs winning. But the brain says it's very difficult to go past the Panthers and the Storm.
Still, you think?
Yeah, they're the benchmark.
Even with Cleary out?
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But they're just very difficult to go past them. They're just the benchmark. They're just a step ahead of everyone.
They are. And who put in the groundwork at the Panthers?
That's right.
Gus was asked a question recently on the pod that he's on, and then they wanted the success of what he said. Then he said that he's looking 3 to 4 years down the track. Bilal Hayek, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Allah bless you and bless your family.
And
bless this wonderful community we have.
No problem. And I look forward to seeing good results both in September.
Inshallah.
2 results.
Inshallah.
No problem. Thank you.